that they could make it go with the people talking, not the doctors. The doctors said there's nothing they can do about it. But people talking said that they were trying to tell their people that it's that I'm well. They said it was because they were like trying to tell them that I'm well so that this could continue. But I really feel that they were trying to tell them that I'm well to not scare them, because if they were exposed to the same technology, which they have to be, they don't want the people who are working with this technology to realize it. Um, I feel that there's a really good movie I talked about last year called 5G, and it's a movie about the 5G technology. And they didn't want me to circulate it because the people talking were like, "Oh, we don't want you to circulate, promote something." They're promoting the worst things ever. So me promoting a 5G movie is none of their business. Again, it's about denying my freedoms as an American citizen, which is partially why they wanted me to leave this country. One of the things they said early about that, I hope I remember. I was like, please remind me to say that. But again, I hope I remember that. So they said I should. Goal for them was to get me to leave the U.S. And if I leave the U.S., I don't have the same rights in some countries as I would here. So I let the passport expire. And at the time, they said something, I can't remember, but East Germany and Palm years ago before. So they're trying to find some way of linking this prior to 2016. And they said, they didn't say what year, but they said years, now they just knocked. Years ago, there was someone at Cardinal Spellman, who was a track star. And I really didn't know this person who made stalking her. And they said she ran track. So they said they used to wake me up when I was here in this apartment sleeping and talk about it. And they said that the elementary schoolmate mentioned it not in full what happened with the stalking, but didn't say it exactly. And then they said when they would try to remind me of that, I would wake up and mispronounce her name. So they wanted to make it seem like I had an issue with mispronouncing people's names or making fun of someone. So they were trying to remind me that that happened. Now, based on my memory, that happened after 2016. After 2016, they started talking about the girl's boyfriend. And they said it out loud so other people would know. I don't know. And they said my friend from high school knew them. Now, I don't think that's true. My friend from high school wouldn't have known her because, again, she was older than we are. And my friend from high school doesn't really know those type of things. And we were close friends. And this is partially the issue. They said this morning that I didn't have close friends in elementary school. Again, it's like I would have to keep going back and forth with them about things, and I don't want to anymore. It's funny, they said my personality assessment was that I have to prove myself right, meaning I'm going to turn it into how we would say growing up in the Bronx. Like, you're a know-it-all, and you have to always feel like you know more than everyone else. That's how we would say it. They come up with all these other ways of expressing it. But had I been a know-it-all, they wouldn't have handled it this way. So when they were saying that the stalking happened, they're not saying exactly when it happened, but it seems like the elementary schoolmate who was a pattern of stalking people stalked this Cardinal Spellman person. And that's partially why I said, if you're from Cardinal Spellman, please contact the FBI. I'm serious. There's something wrong, and I don't know what it is. If this had just been the elementary schoolmate and not everyone else that they involved in this, I would have said, oh, but this is a bigger issue. They're cutting off my live stream. I did a live stream outside yesterday. It didn't show up with anything. They are blocking me from talking about certain things by like cutting my videos off. I'm pointing. I start to talk about something and then they cut me off. You heard the banging, you heard the screaming. So what is the bigger issue? I think it's sex trafficking. I think it's sex trafficking. I said human trafficking, but I think it's sex trafficking. They seem to a lot of kids, especially from Catholic school, but then they need people who didn't go to Catholic school. So I'll just say kids in New York City, maybe also other places, like for sure other places, were being kind of watched in terms of sexual stuff. So they gave an example. My boyfriend was my boyfriend when I was in my 20s. So maybe this could have been 2004 or so. So by then I was 30. And there's a place near City Island where, kind of like a lover's lane kind of place. And we were kind of having a good time in the car. And over his shoulder, there's a guy who comes to kind of look into the window. And I told him immediately. And so they said that they were connected to that. Here's partially the issue. We were 30 and he was like, okay, this weekend I said life. Boyfriend. So if they said there it is. So I'm wondering if this is some sort of blackmail, sex trafficking where they were watching us to see what we were doing, how we were doing it. And again, I'm trying to figure this out just as much as everyone else is. They said, oh, I can't say I was never having sex in a park. That's not having sex in a park. You clearly don't know what sex in a park is. But this is partially the argument here. The argument here is that they put themselves in the position of God and judging everyone else, but they can't come from behind the wall. It's like the Wizard of Oz, where the wizard stays behind the curtain, and every time you try to pull the curtain back, then they try to stalk and harass you to keep the curtain pulled over them. So why stalking is a big deal? It's a big deal in gang stalking, but it's a huge deal in this because the stalking is more than just about, it's about obsession, it's about fixation, and it's about feeling like they're so focused on their victims. So the pattern I'm saying with them seems to be they're focused on children, and as we get older, the focus remains on us, where we must keep an eye on, they must keep an eye on us. We must keep like some sort of connection to it. And when you start to pull away from them and you start to like try to separate from them, then the stalking happens. So it's not a thing of like, oh, I haven't heard from you. Well, how are you doing? It's, where is this person? And it's that. It's an obsessive fixation with us. So when they're talking about this, and I'm saying, if you're in any way connected to me, go to the FBI. If you came from Cardinal Stone, go to the FBI. There's some sort of fixation with us. So I wanted to say that. The other part about that is about sexuality. So when I was talking and I said, I don't get a chance to have true relationships with all of this going on, they don't see why they're a problem. If I'm doing something with my boyfriend, which is not illegal, which is none of their business, they shouldn't be surveilling. At least we got them to admit that right now. You just did. Thank you. Again, I'll try to be as polite as possible, which is always how I am. And they said they want to get me for not being polite. It's very hard to be polite to people who are stalking, harassing you, threatening you, trying to blackmail you, and doing it to interrupt. Someone's just yelled something. They said every single time. It's very hard. It's not easy. So, they said that's why they'll keep calling me a bitch. I'll wear it proudly. I will. Again, that's not my head. That was them just making that comment. Thank you for watching.